am coming to you straight out of my morning meditation today. And the topic that came up is learning to stay. And so many great meditation and spiritual and personal growth teachers all talk about a variation of this learning to stay. So what does that mean? Learning to stay is basically coming into acceptance with whatever is happening in each moment. And that doesn't necessarily mean never change anything. Like, I'm not suggesting if you're in an abusive situation, you stay in that. It's a little bit different. It's learning to stay and accepting what is in the moment is being able to acknowledge what the reality is of each moment as it comes up, and then you're in a place to be able to choose how you want to affect that reality. Because if we're in denial, we can't do anything about it, right? So we have to first have the awareness to be present with whatever is, and sometimes not change it. And for most of us, not all, but most, it's much easier to stay when things are how we like them, or we have feelings that we judge to be happy and pleasant and enjoyable. We like the way it feels. We want to stay there. The majority of us find it much more challenging to stay when we are in an experience that we don't like and that we're judging as uncomfortable or unpleasant or painful or awkward or something that we don't want to be in. And today I'm talking about the concept of learning to stay in the context of meditation, because I've had a lot of clients and people that I've worked with and just friends that I meditate with talk to me about, or say, come to meditation and say, oh, I could never meditate. I have way too busy of a mind, or I feel this when it comes up. And I even remember the very first time I meditated for any length of time, when I was done, I was like, whoa, don't want to do that again. Felt really anxious that whole time, and you just sort of stuff that down. But I know for a fact that anyone can meditate. It's not can you meditate, it's will you meditate. Will you choose to stay in the room even if discomfort comes up? Even if you feel a sad feeling, even if you feel an angry feeling, even if you feel an anxious feeling, no matter what it is, will you choose to just stay and feel it? And the joke is, when we choose to stay, the feelings and the thoughts usually dissipate quite quickly. Not always completely, especially long-term patterns. It takes time to dissolve. We know we need to have patience and compassion with ourselves. But for the most part, and I've seen this time and time and time again with clients in my coaching and meditation sessions with them, when they encounter something that is really quite unpleasant for them to experience, I will often stop and we'll hold that space and we'll go into sort of a body meditation to just feel that. And 9 times out of 10, they feel better after just staying and fully feeling that. And it shifts some. And I'm not saying do that to shift it. That's actually another subtle form of avoidance. If you're trying to feel it to get it to go away, then you're still not, your attention still isn't fully in feeling it. We're feeling it for the intention of feeling it, to embrace the moment, to embrace ourselves in each moment. And it's amazing when that happens. And the other part of this is I've heard this analogy a couple times, and firstly from my good friend Barbara Calkins over at Next Step Meditation and Compassion Project, that the healing path, especially those of you who know me, or if you're just jumping on, I have some health challenges, and the healing path is sometimes called the Labyrinth, because when you start to heal anything, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. All four of those aspects of yourself are connected. So it really doesn't matter which arena you start in, it will affect them all, and vice versa. But there's different densities. Your physical body is the densest energy that we know of our form. And then you have all these more subtle layers. So they're vibrating at different frequencies and moving at different frequencies and adjusting. So sometimes when you make an adjustment in one, the others, they need a little time to catch up and come into alignment with that. Or sometimes when we do a cleanse, for example, say you go on a juice fast, and the first 3 days can be miserable sometimes, or longer, depending, we all have different levels of toxicity of all kinds in our bodies and our energies. And when we stop putting toxin in and we start giving clean things, it gives the body a break and it actually begins to dump toxins. But sometimes when that happens, it is a very unpleasant experience. But if you stick it out and keep going and you just choose to stay with that, and ideally, you honor what's ever coming up in that moment. If you're tired, your body's asking for rest. If you're, you watch the signals. You learn to pay attention. And it can take time, especially at the physical level. If you're changing dietary habits and stuff like that, it takes time to know yourself, basically, and to understand what your body's communicating. In our society and culture and time, we are very out of touch with the signals of our body, especially in terms of the diet. We eat things all the time that our bodies don't like, that don't serve us, that don't promote health. They actually promote the opposite, but we're eating them for a mental reason or an emotional reason, and sort of subjecting ourselves to this toxicity due to other buried feelings or wounds we might be carrying. But the point is, if you choose to stay with the unpleasantness, especially in meditation, those things will pass. And the moment after we feel something we really don't want to feel, often comes the fall from grace. And this is what it is. It is when we decide that we shouldn't be feeling that, we don't want to be feeling it, and thirdly, that we need to fix or do something about it so we don't have to. And that gets us into all sorts of trouble. And not to mention, like I was saying earlier, it's actually a subtle form of avoidance which keeps the thing there. Because when you feel a feeling fully, it allows it to move. It allows it to come up to the surface, express itself, and then transform into something different. And a lot of us have this idea that we need to intellectually understand what's going on at the emotional level to do something about it. We have this control fixation to manage everything that comes up at the conscious level. And most simply, it's just not necessary. Sometimes feelings come up. For example, I noticed today in the meditation I just came out of, some feelings of anxiousness came out, and there wasn't necessarily a thought or anything going on that I could cognitively link it to, and I didn't try. I just let it be there, and it dissipated of its own accord after a while. And sometimes it may not, and that's okay. We continue to stay and continue to stay and continue to stay until it shifts, because we are not in a permanent state. And we freak ourselves out a little bit when we feel unpleasant things because we think it's not going to end, that we'll feel like this forever. And then we panic. And we sort of lose ourselves in that. So my invitation is to lean in to the discomfort and be willing to walk the labyrinth. I think I lost my train of thought a little bit earlier, but was the point of that, is that sometimes things get worse before they get better, and the getting worse is not actually a sign that what you're doing isn't helpful or isn't healing or isn't working. Sometimes it actually is, but we're not used to that. And I know with my health, I've been through all kinds of up and downs. And in the downs, it doesn't feel so great, but I know sometimes it's actually my body still moving forward. It's just the dump of those toxins or the release of pent-up emotional feelings, whatever it is. So it's not always this straight, clear-cut line from one side right to the center. Sometimes you have to wander the labyrinth a little bit, and it helps to bring a compassionate heart and patience and lean in with yourself. It's not forever. I promise. Not forever. So that's it for today, guys, and talk to you soon.